Batman Arkham City builds upon the intense atmospheric foundation of Batman Arkham Asylum, sending players flying through the expansive Arkham City, 5 times larger than the game world in Batman Arkham Asylum, the new maximum security home for all of Gotham City's thugs, gangsters, and insane criminal masterminds. Welcome to episode 48 of the 5 T's of Stealth, where we will be discussing Batman Arkham City Game of the Year Edition. Once again, the 5 T's include tasks, terrain, tools, threats, and tension. These are what I consider to be the fundamentals of stealth gaming. First things first, I played this game on normal difficulty. The story of Arkham City starts from the perspective of Catwoman, who is quickly captured by Two-Face. Next, Bruce Wayne is arrested by Tiger Security during a press conference about shutting down Arkham City. Rather than being a high-tech facility, Arkham City is just a massive part of Gotham that has been walled off with the prisoners running rampant within. Bruce Wayne is then confronted by Hugo Strange, the man in charge of Arkham City's security, who reveals he knows that Bruce is Batman. Bruce is then released inside Arkham City and calls for his suit. Once he suits up, Batman saves Catwoman from Two-Face, then as he asks her about Protocol 10, protects her from a random sniper shot. This shot leads Batman back to the Joker, who is revealed to be dying from the Titan he injected in the last game. By the time Batman reaches Joker, he finds a crying Harley Quinn next to Joker's corpse. However, as he's confirming the death, the real Joker comes from behind and doses him with sleeping gas. When Batman awakens, Joker reveals that he has injected his blood into Batman and donated it to many emergency rooms around Gotham and wants Batman to find the cure. Batman then tracks down Mr. Freeze, who had been working on the cure for Joker, and learns that the Penguin has captured him. Batman then defeats the Penguin and his secret weapon Solomon Grundy in order to release Freeze and receive the cure. Freeze explains how he's missing an element for the cure, and Batman offers up the idea of using the blood of Ra's al Ghul. Then, following a member of the League of Assassins, Batman is able to find where Ra's al Ghul is hiding. On this journey, he gives some of his blood to Robin to have analyzed, and he learns that Hugo Strange is giving weapons to Joker and his thugs. During this journey, he is also starting to suffer from the effects of the Titan infection. Once he arrives at the League's hideout, Batman is confronted by Talia al Ghul, and it is revealed that they have a very complicated romantic relationship. Batman then takes the trials and is able to meet Ra's al Ghul face to face. Then he refuses to kill Ra's and take his side, so a battle begins and then ends with Batman winning and retrieving a vial of blood. Batman then heads back for Freeze, but first interrogates Quincy Sharp, who reveals the plan for Arkham City had been in the works for a long time by Hugo and his associates. Batman then returns to Freeze, who quickly makes 2 vials of the cure. He locks one away, then smashes the other right in front of Batman, demanding that he rescues his wife if he wants the other vial. This tension naturally leads to a fight, and after winning, Batman learns that Harley Quinn stole the cure while they were fighting. Batman once more tracks down Joker, and is met by a healthy Joker who attacks Batman with his thugs, but they are not enough. Luckily for them, the building collapses and the rubble falls on and traps Batman. Before Joker can do anything, Talia al Ghul offers Joker the secret of immortality for Batman's safety. Batman then falls unconscious. At this time, Catwoman is raiding a Tiger safe and learns that Protocol 10 has begun. Protocol 10 turns out to be the mass murdering of all the prisoners in Arkham City, which is pretty simple when you have countless choppers firing missiles and machine guns. This is why Strange was giving weapons to Joker and his crew, simply so he could prove that the prison had gotten out of hand and he wanted to activate Protocol 10 to kill them all. One of these choppers struck the building where Batman and Joker were fighting, which caused the collapse and containment of Batman. Once Catwoman learns that Batman is down, she is faced with a choice: save Batman or escape Arkham City with the valuables she has collected. You actually get to make this choice, but if you choose to abandon Batman, you get a cutscene with Barbara explaining how Batman is dead and the Joker is taking over, then the game rewinds. So, Catwoman chooses to save Batman, which once more puts you in his shoes. Batman calls Oracle to shut down Protocol 10, but she is unable to, and along with Alfred, convinces Batman to shut down Protocol 10 himself before going after Talia and Joker. Batman then climbs Wonder Tower, defeats Strange, and gives the Oracle access to the servers, leading to the shutdown of Protocol 10. It is then revealed via a sword through Strange's back that Ra's al Ghul is Strange's master. Strange then activates Protocol 11, which blows up the top of the tower, leading to Ra's al Ghul being impaled as he falls. This is immediately followed by Joker broadcasting Talia on her knees with his gun to her head and an invitation to the Batman. Batman enters the movie theater and finds Joker on stage with Talia, still with his gun to her head. At this time, Talia breaks free and stabs Joker with the sword of Ra's al Ghul. After Talia kills Joker, Batman leans down by his body and starts to come to a realization. This is still a trick. This is still a fake Joker. However, it is too little too late, as the real Joker, the dying, sickly Joker, shoots Talia from the upper levels of the theater. The fake Joker is then revealed to be Clayface, who couldn't refuse the role of a lifetime. Batman and Clayface begin to fight, and after a certain point, Joker blows up the floors, which leads to a Lazarus pit. As Clayface is defeated and Batman retrieves the cure, Joker tries to jump into the pit from some machinery above, but a quick sword throw from Batman into the controls destroys the machine and sends Joker flying. However, it does seem to knock Clayface into the pit. Batman then drinks the cure and is berated by the Joker, desperately asking for the cure. Before Batman can decide to give it to him, the Joker plunges a blade into Batman's arm, the same arm that was holding the cure, which he then drops and it shatters. Joker desperately tries to lick up any drop of the cure that he can, but it's no use and he dies on the floor in front of Batman. Batman picks up Joker's body and walks straight out of Arkham City. That is how the game ends, with the death of Joker. My favorite part of the story is easily the Clayface shenanigans. It was clear that some trickery was going on, but I honestly forgot about Clayface and wasn't expecting him to be Joker's stand-in. All the story beats with Ra's al Ghul, I could take it or leave it, but obviously it all factors into the Titan infection and the cure, so I guess it's a win. You can tell the game wants you to care about Talia, at least it seems that way to me, but ultimately she's basically irrelevant. She wasn't present in Asylum, and she has maybe 10-ish minutes in this game. Those 10 minutes were not used effectively enough to make me care, but they did show the connection with Bruce, so I guess that's good enough. I would have liked to see more about their relationship, so I would actually care about her, but her death is just kind of whatever. In terms of the actual mission design, there's a lot going on, but it all falls into the same categories. You're basically looking for a person or item, saving someone, or destroying some type of equipment. That's about it. Go find Joker, then go find Freeze, then Penguin, then Ra's, then Freeze again, then Joker again. I'm not really complaining since the mission design seems to fall into the story rather well, but it is just a bunch of running around and figuring out how to infiltrate a location. Aside from the main story, there is also some side missions you can do, but I pretty much avoided all of that. There's one mission where Alfred sends in the cure, but when Batman gets to the location, he passes out. He wakes up with a Mad Hatter who is drugging him. This is basically a simple combat encounter with some trippy visuals. I found Bane, which was cool, until he said, "Go destroy these 6 Titan canisters." I said, "No sir, I will not be doing this busy work." Someone gets sniped by Deadshot, but again, I was not going to run around looking at bodies he's killed. All these side missions just felt like open world busy work, so I passed on most. I did do a mission for Mr. Freeze, but all you do is go to a location where his wife is and again complete a combat encounter. This is something I did not talk about in the Arkham Asylum review since it wasn't so overbearing, but in Arkham City, I have to complain. All the Riddler trophies and challenges all over the map annoy the shit out of me. I will bring this up again in the Arkham Origins and Arkham Knight reviews as well. In Arkham City, you can't take a single step without seeing green question marks plastered all over the walls and rooftops. It's too much. It's way too much. On top of that, the trophies are tied to a specific character, either Batman or Catwoman. In other words, if you're playing as Batman and try to pick up a trophy for Catwoman, you can't. If the Arkham series has done nothing else, it has made me a hater of the Riddler. I officially cannot stand this guy. Set after the main story, there is a brief mission called Harley Quinn's Revenge. This is pretty simple, but you play as Robin. Harley Quinn has taken some cops hostage, and Batman went missing while looking for them. Again, you play as Robin, and you have to find Batman and the hostages. This is not very long, and the two main parts of this involve defeating Harley in a fight as Robin, and defusing some bombs she has around the building as Batman. The Steam page clearly states that Arkham City is 5 times the size of Arkham Asylum, but is all that extra size worth anything? I would say yes. The The first thing that becomes apparent in terms of the level design is how much you will be running and gliding through this city. I genuinely enjoy grappling and gliding from rooftop to rooftop. In terms of each individual building, things feel much less exciting. There are a lot of linear areas you'll be running through to complete the mission, all of which start to feel somewhat repetitive. Overall, each stealth encounter feels better, even if it might not be that different. There are plenty of high vantage points to hide on and vents to climb through, either in the walls or in the floors. It feels like you at least have some variety in how you may want to proceed. Now, the first specific area I want to talk about is the museum that Penguin has taken over. There's one room in particular that Penguin has frozen, so you enter this room with water and ice all over. The ice requires you to move slowly so as not to break, but how important is that really? Well, for science, I jumped directly into the water to see what would happen, and I was pretty surprised. If you fall into the water, you are politely greeted by a great white shark. So, you're in this icy room, and you have to slowly walk around, but then you also have to use a little raft to maneuver across the water areas. This raft mechanic is used again later, albeit a little differently, but this is definitely a mix-up from the norm of Asylum. Does it get a little annoying at times? Sure, but overall, I enjoyed the change of pace as well as having to go back and forth from your raft while dodging certain obstacles. Again, during the actual progression of the story, you're usually running through linear areas, which are fine, but the stealth gives you some more options, which is a nice touch. There's one other specific moment I forgot to mention. In one section, I believe it was within the steel mill, there is a sniper who has a room locked down with no way to get through. However, there is a conveyor belt off to the side with some boxes. You have to get onto the conveyor belt and hide under one of these boxes until you successfully get behind the enemy. This was a very enjoyable change of pace. If you are watching this review, I will assume you have watched my Arkham Asylum review. In that video, I went pretty in depth on the tools and the upgrades. I'm not really going to be doing that moving forward, but I'll still talk about them of course. Let's start with gadgets. Keep in mind that each gadget can be equipped and activated, and that there are several gadgets that can be quick fired even if not equipped. First, I want to quickly rattle off the returning gadgets and then briefly talk about changes to any of them. Returning from Asylum, you have access to the following: Batarang, remote controlled Batarang, Sonic Batarang, Sonic Shock Batarang, Bat Claw, Explosive Gel, Cryptographic Sequencer, and the Line Launcher. The Cryptographic Sequencer now feels exponentially better to use. Instead of trying to match the frequency, you now simply have to enter the correct password by spinning the letters into place. Great improvement. The Line Launcher has one addition. When you use the Line Launcher, you can choose to walk on top of the line like a tightrope. Another great improvement. You can even drop down from the wire for a takedown. Next, let's talk some new gadgets. I'll give a little more detail here. The Smoke Pellet can be thrown at your feet to disorient thugs and let you get away. The Reverse Batarang worked more like a boomerang than the other variants. Once you lock onto an enemy, you will throw the Reverse Batarang past them, and then it will do a 180 and hit them in the back. The Freeze Blast was a grenade given to Batman by Mr. Freeze. This grenade was mostly used for freezing water and creating a raft, or blocking vents that were blowing steam. However, it could also be thrown at enemies to lock them in place for a bit, and it was also essential in the Clayface boss fight. There is even an upgrade that unlocks the Freeze Mine, which worked more for the stealth situations. This allowed you to throw down a mine that would freeze any enemy who triggered the explosion. Next, there is the Remote Electrical Charge. This gadget is used to power on or off electronics, mostly meaning you can open and close shutters or move elevators. However, it can also be used with certain electronics for environmental damage. Lastly, the Disruptor allowed you to basically jam an enemy's weapon, preventing them from firing at you. I mostly forgot about this to be honest, but it is very helpful in the boss fight with Mr. Freeze. Aside from all the gadgets, there are of course a ton of upgrades. Every time you level up, you unlock one skill point. I'm not going to list these off, but these are all about what you would expect. You've got upgrades to your armor, allowing you to take more damage, and upgrades that give you more options in combat. The only one I really want to touch on is the Heat Signature Conceal. I will mention this again later, but some enemies have thermal goggles which allow them to scan gargoyles and spot you. The Heat Signature Conceal basically counters these enemies. Let's talk the basics. General movement feels good with a sprint, crouch, and a newly added slide. You can also climb ladders and mantle up low-hanging ledges. As you are Batman, your general movement also includes lots of gliding and grappling, which feels good as well. Newly added is the ability to dive while gliding and then pull back up, allowing you to stay in the air for great distances. On the stealth side of things, there is still the silent takedown if you sneak up on an enemy. While in the process of a silent takedown, you can use a knockout attack, which will quickly incapacitate the enemy while causing noise and alerting enemies to that location. There is still the inverted takedown, which I raved about in the first game as well. If you are on top of a vantage point and an enemy walks beneath you, you can activate the inverted takedown to grab that enemy and hang them from the vantage point by their leg. The biggest improvement in the takedown department for my money is the double takedown. If there are two enemies next to one another, you can sneak up and activate a double silent takedown, basically grabbing both enemies and slamming their heads together. I believe there is even a double ledge takedown. There are a ton of other takedown options available, such as through the vents and through weak walls, but these are not silent, so be prepared to keep moving. In terms of combat, you've still got your punch, counter, and dodge as the building blocks, and the cape stun to add a little complexity. If you use the cape stun 3 times consecutively, you will use an ultra stun, which will open up the larger enemies for a beatdown. This is a massive improvement over the waiting game of Arkham Asylum whenever the Titan henchmen showed up. You'll also gain the aerial attack, which in combination with the stun attack allows you to take out shielded enemies, but I'll come back to that. While brawling, enemies will be knocked to the ground temporarily and you have to use a ground takedown to eliminate them from the fight. Enemies will eventually be knocked out regardless, but it takes much longer without the ground takedown. As the world's greatest detective, you still have access to detective mode. While this is used in the story for analyzing and tracking, it's more so just used for learning how many enemies are in an area and seeing them through walls. This will also show enemies with a red outline if they are armed with a firearm. As I mentioned earlier, you will also play as Catwoman in various times throughout the story, as well as Robin in the post-story mission Harley Quinn's Revenge. They definitely have some unique aspects, but are mostly similar to Batman. For starters, in the story, Batman and Catwoman actually share skill points. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. Maybe this decision was made because you don't play as Catwoman that often, so you wouldn't get many upgrades, or perhaps it's simply because she has very few upgrades to unlock. Regardless of the reason, I see this as a horrible decision since upgrading Catwoman feels like a waste. Catwoman's upgrades follow the same pattern, allowing for upgrades to armor and combos. Alright. Let's actually talk about her kit. Instead of a grapple, Catwoman uses her whip to launch herself towards a ledge, but always ends up below the targeted location. As this happens, you have to time your jumps to quickly scale the wall and reach the ledge. The whip can also be used in combat. Catwoman's batarang equivalent is the bolas. You can also use caltrops to make enemies slip and fall. The most exciting part of playing Catwoman is the ceiling pounce. As Catwoman, in certain areas you can climb on the ceilings and even perform stealth takedowns where you basically strangle an enemy with your legs. Let's talk Robin. Robin feels extremely similar to Batman, so I'm only going to focus on the changes. I believe there are only 2 things I wish to mention: the bullet shield and the snap flash. The bullet shield does exactly what it sounds like and deflects incoming fire, while the snap flash is more exciting. If you've seen my review of Origami, then this will sound familiar. The snap flash is a mine that can be placed on objects or on the back of an enemy, then detonated whenever you choose, knocking down all enemies in the blast radius. In other words, snap flash is a less cool version of the shinen. Starting with your basic enemies, there are countless thugs of different affiliations spread throughout this enclosed city. Basic enemies come equipped with a variety of weapons, while some are barehanded. Some thugs have guns, baseball bats, stun rods, shields, or blades, while others are wearing heavy armor and must be cape stunned before attacked. During large brawls, some enemies will start to open a weapon crate for a gun, while others will find objects in the area to throw at you. When an enemy is knocked down, they will drop the weapon, but these weapons can always be picked back up. This is where the complexity comes into play with combat, as you have to react to different weaponry in different ways. Guns and baseball bats are simple. Enemies with guns shoot you, so you need to prioritize them to prevent getting blasted, while baseball bats might as well just be fists, since you can counter them with no worries. Enemies with bladed weapons cannot be countered and instead require a blade dodge as you slightly jump back, dodging each strike. Enemies with shields are pretty simple as well. Naturally, punching them has no effect and will ruin your combo. To defeat a shield enemy, you must first cape stun to drop their guard, then dodge over them, which will trigger an aerial takedown. The stun rod enemies cannot be attacked head on either, and you will get zapped if you try. To take down the stun rods, you simply need to dodge over them and swing backwards. There are also enemies with snipers whose line of sight can be seen by a red light. Stay out of sight and sneak up on them for the takedown. In terms of the stealth, detection is very mediocre at best. Enemies will react to knocked out bodies, while some enemies even have heart monitors to alert others when they are taken down. Some enemies will even start to place mines when alerted, while others have thermal goggles and will scan vantage points searching for you. Back to the combat sections, there's a couple more enemies to discuss. The Titan henchmen are once again present, but feel like they're used more sparingly, and interacting with them isn't a nightmare. Instead of just waiting for them to charge at you, use the Ultra Stun and Beat Down, making these more of a real enemy. There's one more enemy that I'm not exactly sure how to explain. I believe there were two of them, and I believe it's basically a Titan henchman variant, but I can't say for certain. Basically, these are big dudes with a big weapon, but are missing an arm. If I'm remembering correctly, the Ultra Stun should still work against them as well. Let's talk bosses. First up, let's talk Penguin and Solomon Grundy. For starters, Penguin has the freeze gun, which you have to jam before you can move in. After this, Penguin triggers an explosion, which drops you into a big pit, which is where you will find Solomon Grundy. This fight is extremely boring. There are some electrical currents that charge up Solomon, and all you have to do is dodge him and place explosive gel in like 3 spots. Do this a few times and there will eventually be no more electricity to keep Solomon fighting. After this, Penguin will come down with a grenade or rocket launcher, which can be dodged extremely easily as you run in for the takedown. Next up, Ra's al Ghul. This is another fight that is unfortunately mediocre at best. At first, Ra's al Ghul spawns some enemies and disguises himself as one of them. Once you take them all out and knock him down, he will disappear. Once he reappears, he is much larger but completely stationary and spams projectiles. Simply dodge his projectiles and spam your own back at him. Once you hit him enough times, he will disappear again. Next, he will jump at you and rapidly swing his sword while you need to spam counter to block all his attacks. This is easily the best part of the fight in my opinion. Now, repeat all that a second time and the fight is won. Next up, Mr. Freeze, which for my money is the best boss fight in the game, although the bar isn't exactly high. Your fight against Freeze is a stealth encounter, but he can track your movements and will slowly follow your path. You have to take down Freeze using a variety of methods, each of which can only be used one time. In other words, Freeze learns from what you do. Once you've temporarily stunned him, you need to run up and punch him a few times, then get away before he's back up. Rinse and repeat about 5 or 6 times and the fight is won. There are several environmental effects that can be used to your advantage. You can activate machinery in the room with your remote electrical charge, which will magnetize Freeze's suit to it, causing damage, but the next time he sees one, Freeze will, well, freeze it. You can activate some electrical wiring on the floor to shock him, silent takedown from behind, or takedown from the vents. But again, once you do anything to damage him, you cannot do it again. After Freeze, there is the final boss of the game, Clayface. This is sadly another fight that involves standing around spamming projectiles. In the first phase, Clayface will extend his arms out towards you in the shape of different weapons. Sometimes he will even do a jump attack towards you. After some time passes, he will turn into a ball and roll at you. Your job is to once again spam a projectile while dodging his attacks, although at least it's the freeze blast and not the batarang again, I guess. When he turns into a ball, you want to bait him into the explosive barrels located in the 4 corners of the room. Once you've dealt enough damage, Clayface will temporarily freeze, allowing you to take Talia's sword from his back and slash him a few times. Then it's back to dodging projectiles and attacks while throwing out your own projectiles. The second time you freeze him and slice him up, Clayface will fall apart into several frozen pieces, and Joker will blow a hole in the floor. On this bottom floor, Clayface will be a big ol' puddle that constantly spawns clay humanoids for you to fight. After you defeat enough of these enemies, Clayface will pop up briefly to shoot another projectile at you. This is when you once again throw your freeze grenade. Eventually, after doing this a few times, you will once again freeze Clayface and run up to slash him, ending the fight. Now, I also want to talk about Harley Quinn in the bonus mission, Harley Quinn's Revenge, but I'll be brief. In this mission, during a stealth section, Harley will be walking around with a handgun with several other thugs in the area. You just have to keep attacking her until she runs out of health while dodging all the thugs. Arkham City definitely does not take the formula of the first game and make it more difficult. This is still a pretty easy game, however, for me at least, everything started to click a bit more. The combat encounters feel much better, even with only minor changes. I mean seriously, getting rid of the horrible Titan henchman encounters where you stand around and wait makes things a lot better. The combat overall is just very simple. You mostly just spam the same two buttons, so it's hard to say it's anything but easy. Again, however, the combat started to click for me. Quickly dashing around an area with countless enemies swarming your location feels pretty good and feels very Batman. I won't sit here and pretend that I'm in love with this combat system, but it looks extremely cool with all the attacks and with the quickness. Batman is definitely severely injuring countless enemies in these fights. In terms of the stealth encounters, the game still remains pretty simplistic, but I think it feels better. This might be due to the fact that the more I play as Batman, the more I get absorbed into the world of Batman, and it's more of a placebo effect. I'm not completely sure why things felt better, considering the stealth aspects of this game probably got the least amount of changes. My working theory is simply that the game feels better as a whole to play, making the stealth sections more enjoyable. My other potential theories are related to my familiarity with the systems and map design. This could simply be a case of me being more comfortable with the game and therefore it feels better. I'm also thinking the map design opened up a bit more and allowed for some more creativity, but again, that could just be in my head. I'd also like to briefly mention the double stealth takedown again. I've been playing a ton of stealth games. I think that fact is pretty obvious, but I just wanted to reiterate that point. Out of all the stealth games I have played and reviewed on this channel, I can't recall a single one with something comparable to the double takedown. Stealthily taking down more than one enemy always required some sort of ability or gadget. This simple yet impactful addition has gone a long way to sway me, even if lining it up is pretty difficult and doesn't always work perfectly. Regardless of the improvements for this game, the best part about it remains the Batman license. The main reason for this is of course the story and characters. I am a much bigger fan of the story told in Arkham City than I am of the story told in Arkham Asylum. I think this game really showcases how crazy Joker is while providing an insane plot twist with Clayface embodying Joker for the role of a lifetime. This alone is probably enough for me. The fact that Clayface was impersonating Joker and doing a damn good job of it is just so satisfying, and looking back makes everything even more interesting. Let's talk bosses, because in both games now, I've been very hard on them. I'm honestly just continually disappointed by a majority of these fights, but I'm very conflicted. On one hand, these fights are just not fun. But on the other, the existence of these boss fights is great for pacing, and it's very enjoyable to see the characters in terms of the story. Does that make sense? I guess to put it more simply, I'm glad they are present, I just wish they weren't such a drag. Batman Arkham City is still far from perfect, but it takes the aspects I enjoyed from Arkham Asylum and improves upon them while simultaneously making the experience of actually playing the game much more bearable.